We're going to look at two more chapters in the book of Leviticus, and we're going to take a break from Leviticus for a while and go back to the Psalms. I'll get to that soon, next week. But I want you to look at chapter 9 today. This is where the sacrificial system actually begins. We have, in this chapter and the next, we have one of the most glorious pictures, narratives in the Old Testament of this beginning of the sacrificial system, and Aaron doing his part, doing what he's supposed to do. And then one of the saddest accounts in chapter 10 of what we would call strange fire. Let's take a look at chapter 9 first. It was on the 8th day. It came about on the 8th day that Moses called Aaron and his sons and the elders of Israel. He said to Aaron, "Take for yourself a calf, a bull for a sin offering, a ram for a burnt offering, both without defect, and offer them before the Lord." This is the dedication of Aaron and the other priests to do the work that God had called them to do. Then it says in verse 3, "Then to the sons of Israel you shall speak. You'll take a male goat for a sin offering, a calf and a lamb, both 1 year old without defect for a burnt offering." And they were offered those. So we have at this point a special offering for the dedication of Aaron and his other priests, and also a special different offering for the people who would follow this priesthood. And he says all this is going to happen because verse 4, "For today the Lord will appear to you." So all that takes place in chapter 9, and they obey. They do exactly what they're supposed to do. Aaron goes into it comes out and then says, verse 22, he lifts up his hand towards the people and blessed them. And then verse 23, Aaron and Moses went into the tent of meeting, the tabernacle, where they came out and blessed the people. The glory of the Lord appeared to all the people. So they go in the tabernacle, come out, once again bless the people. And then fire came out from the Lord and consumed the burnt offering and the portions of fat on the offering. When all the people saw it, they shouted and fell on their faces. What a glorious picture, the beginning of the sacrificial system that God has so clearly set up for them. And the fire of the Lord comes down as authenticating his pleasure with this, and consumes the altar, the portions of the sacrifices on the altar. The people are overwhelmed. They shout and fall on their faces. It doesn't say what they're doing there, whether this is purely fear or is it an act of worship. It doesn't say, but definitely overwhelms them. Then we move into chapter 10, and it's immediately that Aaron's two sons, the sons who would eventually replace him as high priest, Nadab and Abihu, decided they're going to be creative, and they're going to offer before the Lord something different, something he had not set up or authorized. And it says here they placed in their fire pans, and they offered a strange fire before the Lord, which he had not commanded them. And the fire came down from the presence of the Lord and consumed them, and they died before the Lord. Now, it doesn't say they did something horrible. They didn't commit immorality. They didn't steal. They didn't embezzle. They didn't do any of those awful things. But they went in before the Lord and offered some kind of strange fire that the Lord had not commanded. And we're not told exactly what that was. But it was not what God wanted. And therefore the Lord takes immediate and drastic action and consumes these two men, taking their lives, and they die. And then he says to Moses, and then Moses said to Aaron, it is what the Lord spoke, saying, "By those who come near me, I will be treated as holy, and before all the people I will be honored." So the sin that they committed was not honoring the Lord and not treating him as holy. There's a horrible consequence of that. And Aaron kept silent. We can imagine the pain that he was going through. And they continue on through chapter 10 to talk about some of the things that the Lord wanted him to do. But it wasn't long before the other two sons of Aaron, the two that had not died yet, came before God, and they did not. Eleazar and Ithamar come before the Lord, and they too did not do things exactly like God told them to do. It wasn't a strange fire situation, but they did not follow the protocol God had set up. And that made Moses quite unhappy. Within verses 16 to 18, he gets all over Aaron. He's angry with Aaron and his sons. Perhaps the Lord will take those boys as well. We don't know. But Aaron kind of mitigates the situation in verse 19. And he spoke to Moses, saying, "Behold, this very day they presented their sin offering and the burnt offering before the Lord. When these things like these happen to me, if I'd eaten the sin offering today, would it have been good in the sight of the Lord? I mean, he just lost 2 sons, and he says, I just could not bring myself to eat the sin offering that I was supposed to eat and that my sons were supposed to eat. Well, Moses and the Lord has compassion on poor Aaron at this point. In verse 20, when Moses heard that, it seemed good in his sight. And so they did not bring any kind of judgment upon the sons. They understood the sorrow and hurt that was going in the heart. It was in the heart of Aaron in the tragedy of his sons. So that brings us to the dedication and the beginning of the sacrificial system. And then we begin in chapter 11 with a lot of laws concerning food and animals. I want you to read that. I hope you will read a chapter at a time. But we're going to move to our Wonderful Day in the Lord broadcast to talking about the Psalms that you're also supposed to be reading. And we'll look at those next week. So do both, and we'll give you a break from Leviticus for a while. Don't want you to give up there. Keep on reading through, but study the Psalms too. We'll see you next week.